Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are connecting from. To introduce myself, I'm Shashidhar. I'm a part of Citrix Ready team. I lead the mobility and desktop ecosystem within the Citrix Ready program. And today we are here for the Citrix Ready technical webinar series, wherein we will learn about how to improve the productivity, compliance, and security of your Citrix and mobile environment. And we would achieve this using the EG Innovation and NVIDIA solutions. So from EG Innovations, we have Bala Vaidyanathan, CTO, and from NVIDIA, we have Sumanta Chakraborty, Principal Product Manager. Next slide, please. So I'd like to thank you everyone for attending this webinar today, and I would like to welcome you all to this Citrix Ready Technical Webinar Series, where we showcase how Citrix and our partners have integrated the solutions to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers today. To talk about the Citrix Ready program, Citrix Ready is an end-to-end technology partner program which showcases and recommends third-party products, solutions, and services that demonstrate compatibility with the Citrix products. So any partner who wants to verify their product as Citrix Ready verified product, they go some rigorous testing, verifications, and we have built in an online verification portal as well, through which they submit the test results to us, and we at Citrix we verify those test results, ensure that the partner product works absolutely fine and with the Citrix products. And once we approve those, we list those products on our marketplace, which we call it as a Citrix Ready marketplace, and you could easily navigate it to citrixready.citrix.com. So this is one-stop shop for the customers who wants to find the easy solutions and quick solutions which is recommended by Citrix and to make the purchase. To get more information about the Citrix Ready program, I would recommend you to navigate to citrix.com/partner programs/Citrix Ready. So before we start this presentation, if you have any questions during this webinar, please use the question panel on the right hand side and we'll take your questions in the Q&A session at the end. We have a few poll questions also during this webinar, so please answer those. So without any further delay, please welcome Bala and Samantha.
Hey, thank you very much, Sashi, and I want to thank everyone for joining us live. And if you're not and listening to a recording, welcome anyway. Still, today we've got something interesting for you. We are excited to work with our partner NVIDIA here and talk about some of the new technologies that they are bringing to fore and how we are partnering with them to make things easier for you guys, Citrix customers. So we'll do a quick introduction of EG and NVIDIA, and then talk a little bit about EG. Some of you on the call would already probably know EG. If not, you're in for a treat. And then we'll talk a little bit about NVIDIA. Samantha will introduce you to what they are bringing to the table with their GPU cards. And then we'll talk about integration. How you can manage performance in these GPU cards, understand how they are helping your user experience, and how you can make it better. We'll do a couple of live demonstrations, of course, and like Shashi said, hold on to your questions. We are actually, we do have a couple of folks helping us answer questions live, so go ahead whenever you have questions. Feel free to type in the Q&A panel, and it should get answered as we go along. But we also have a slot towards the end to take up Q&A and go through it in detail. So let's start with the EG Innovation. So very quick introduction. We are dedicated to helping business. We've been around for over a decade and a half, and our focus is to turn IT service delivery into a competitive advantage, into a center for productivity and growth. Essentially, we provide a singular platform to manage all of IT, from user experience to, as you would see today, GPU metrics, from application performance management to DevOps initiatives, unified performance management and monitoring for your entire infrastructure. and services. Now, we are a global company with customers across North and South America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. We have, this is a sampling of our customer base. Just to give you a perspective, we have a lot of customers who use us for Citrix, and we have a lot of customers who use us for other things. We are an end-to-end performance management platform. But today, the focus will be on Citrix tools, Citrix solutions, and how we can deliver customized value for Citrix environments. Essentially, we simplify IT management for our customers. Now, with that, I'm excited to welcome Sumanta to our webinar here. He is a principal product manager from NVIDIA. And please, Sumanta, give us a quick intro about NVIDIA.
Thank you, Valla. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be part of this webinar with Citrix and Utilization. And the partnership that we are bringing together, how we're going to help overall VDI in this environment. So to begin with, very, very high level NVIDIA, we were founded in 1993. Jensen Huang is our co-founder and CEO. We actually invented GPUs in 1999, and we have shipped more than 1 billion of GPUs to date. We're roughly about $5 billion in revenue, and a worldwide company about more than 9,000 employees worldwide, about 7,300 patents that we have. We are headquartered in Santa Clara. For more than 2 decades, NVIDIA has pioneered visual computing, the art and science of computer graphics. With a singular focus to this field, we have specialized platforms for gaming. Probably most of you already are aware of our GeForce line of products. Professional visualization, our Quadro line of products for high-end 3D graphics. Data center products, Tesla and Grid, that's for high-performance computing and visual graphics. And automotive market driven by our Tegra line of silicons and Drive PX products. Our work is at the center of the most consequential mega trends in industry: virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and self-driving cars. In today's webinar, we're going to focus on our data center product, Grid, which is bringing the graphics virtualization to a different level. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what NVIDIA does and who we are. In future slides, we'll dig deeper into our products. So let's take a quick poll on the webinar today. Go ahead, Sashi.
Yep. So we'll give about 20 to 30 seconds for the poll questions to be answered, and then we can take it.
Yeah, so just so for everybody's sake, we'll just read it out. So what we are trying to get to here is how far are you guys in terms of your GPU maturity? So feel free to select everything that applies to you. GPU solutions, I currently have a GPU on my systems. I'm thinking about GPU on my systems, or I use GPU extensively in my environment and I'm looking for ways to manage it better. I haven't heard of GPU. So whatever applies to you, go ahead and check.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and close the poll now, or just I'll give another 5 seconds, 10 seconds more. Okay, there we go. Okay, Valla. So these are the results.
Okay. Can you read it out for us, Shashi? It's difficult for us to see here.
Sure. So I currently have GPU on my systems is about 36%. I'm thinking about GPU on my systems is about 48%. I use GPU and looking for ways to manage it better is about 21%. I haven't heard of GPU is very less, it's 5%.
Okay. We just threw it in there. We knew probably wouldn't get much. But that's good. I think this is along the lines we were expecting. I think about half of our audience is using GPU, and half of the audience is thinking about GPU. And we have some advanced folks who are using it extensively, looks like, and looking for ways to manage it better. I think what they will see in this webinar going forward is if you are thinking about GPU, you will get an understanding of why you should seriously consider it for your environment. If you currently have GPU, you will get an understanding of how to use it better. And if you're using GPU extensively and looking for ways to manage it better, this is going to give you a treasure trove of information that you can use. Sumanta, comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very excited that only 5% have not heard about GPU. So we won't have to step that stage, which is, again, what we expected. So absolutely, some of the discussions that we will have and some of the slides that we're going to talk about the products in general will get all those people excited who haven't implemented GPUs yet or are considering will get excited, and also the manageability part that we are bringing in the discussion today will help everybody understand how easy is it going to be and how more efficient we're going to make it, right? So that's very, very good data from the poll.
Yep. Thanks, Samantha. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about unified Citrix performance management and how we will eventually plug GPU into this whole piece. So we're going to talk about when you talk about performance management, the first thing that comes up is user experience, right? User experience is essentially key for Citrix success. And we've been doing this for quite some time with Citrix. We, as an EG, for the past 12, 13, 14 years, I lose count. But essentially, we've been evolving with Citrix. We've been a close partner with them for a long time. And what we understand more than anything is it doesn't matter how your infrastructure is, it doesn't matter how your applications are. If the user experience is not good, then your Citrix service delivery is not good. Now, when there is a problem like that, when the user is complaining, the challenge in the Citrix environment, and to truly understand this, I think all you have to do is have a Citrix environment with 20 Citrix users. Essentially, you are looking at a situation where since Citrix is the interface, Citrix is delivering everything for you. They've made it much richer. They've made it much more easier and much more powerful for all the end users today. But the other end of the spectrum is management. There are so many other platforms involved in delivering Citrix today. So there are so many other dependencies. Whenever there is a problem in any of those, it shows up in Citrix. And the challenge is, where is the problem? Where do I even start, right? And it's the Citrix administrator who always ends up holding the bucket, right? And we have to go in and try to show other people that this is not Citrix's problem before they would even start looking at their own systems. And what we find in the industry is most of the times people have, from a Citrix administration standpoint, when you're trying to manage and troubleshoot problems, you end up using too many tools. You can see overall, 80% of this audience in this survey use more than 2 tools to manage performance of the Citrix infrastructure. That is not ideal. When you have a problem, when customers are complaining, you having to log into multiple tools and trying to figure out what's going on is not ideal. Now, what is Citrix performance management? How do we make this better? Citrix has evolved from an application into a rich platform that it is today. You can do Citrix on your mobile, you can do Citrix on desktops, you can do Citrix as an application, you can use NetScaler to deliver Citrix globally to your environment and to your partners. You can use Citrix Zen Server to deliver virtualization. There are so many different things. Zen Mobile. There are so many things that are out there today. So when it comes to performance management in this space, it's not just monitoring Citrix XenApp or Citrix VDI anymore. It's monitoring this entire platform of services, the suite that is being delivered by Citrix. And not just monitoring it, but understanding, truly managing it, understanding the dependencies. And monitoring the platform of Citrix, you also need to look at monitoring the ecosystem around it, the applications that are running on top of it, let it be your Office applications or SAP applications, any type that is running on top of it, to truly manage, because at the end of the day, what you're managing is user experience, and delivering optimal user experience and user joy is the goal. So that means you need to understand all these different pieces, how they're working together. So what is the solution? So we've been doing this for a decade and a half. We have a bunch of patents on this technology. Essentially, we started saying a long time ago, before business service monitoring, before end-to-end monitoring was even a buzzword, that truly today from the client-server concepts of yesteryears to N-tier architectures. That means you had multiple tiers that were working together to deliver the service to the end user. So that means it was not enough if you were just monitoring one of those tiers. Just had a Citrix monitor that looked at XenApp and database monitor that just looked at database. You had to look at the entire environment as a service being delivered to the end user. It's important to monitor infrastructure, as you will see as we go along further in this webinar. But infrastructure monitoring only takes you so far. So with EG, what we are able to give you is in-depth infrastructure monitoring, but in correlation with how services are being delivered on top of that infrastructure. Now, that's great, but service monitoring is only so good as long as you're not monitoring end user experience. If the end user experience is poor, then your service can be great. It's still not successful. So we monitor infrastructure performance in correlation with service performance, and service performance in correlation with end user experience. So that means we are able to provide what we call as total performance visibility. In a single dashboard, you will be able to see end-to-end how a particular service is functioning, and if there is a problem, why there is a problem. And even before a problem starts happening, preemptively address those issues so you can provide optimal user experience and prevent your users from having any performance issues. And of course, it helps you to right-size your environment, get more ROI out of it. You will see it as we go along. Now, having said all this, we want to walk you through a simple real-time example, real-world example, day-to-day. So my application is very slow, right? This is a typical, my logon is slow, my application is slow, I can't do something. This is a typical call you get into your help desk. It's 8 a.m. in the morning, your help desk receives the call, and they say they'll get on it right away. That just basically means they'll call you right away. And once they've called you right away, you have a bunch of tools that you need to start looking at and start analyzing data, start trying to figure out what is going on. You end up doing a lot of work that typically you shouldn't be doing, but you end up doing a lot of this work to show that this is probably not your problem. So let's walk through the timeline of this particular problem. Help desk receives a call at 8 o'clock. Help desk receives multiple calls at 9 o'clock. Citrix admin has reviewed director at site metrics, has killed some processes, decides to reboot the server. The problem does not appear to be specific to Citrix. So you call a conference call, the famous Tiger team conference call, where everybody chips in to basically say, this is not my problem. Now, let's see how. So eventually it's identified in one tier, but let's see how this would go, this would play out with EG Innovations, Intelligent Performance Monitoring. Okay, I'm going to walk you guys through a demo. This is a demo in the sense that we've kept something broken so you can see how EG can find out. But essentially, this is real time. What you're seeing is I'm connecting to a cloud service. I'm logging in as user Kim, and you're going to see the results that come up. This is basically over the internet right now. So as you were seeing towards the end of that slide, the problem seemed to be in the VMware tier. And with EG, as soon as you log in, you can see that the problem is in the VMware tier. Virtual CPU utilization of console is high, so that's the critical problem. The problems are presented according to severity. The darker the shade of red, the more severe the problem is. So you can see an alarm window here. It describes and details all the problems that are currently happening in the environment, and it focuses on the most critical problem up top. So let's drill down and see why that particular VM is consuming a lot of CPU, and that's because somebody is running backup that not only takes up a lot of CPU, also chokes the disk, and that has a trickle-down effect where other things are breaking down because of that. But essentially, instead of having to do everything that we saw in that scenario, you will be able to look at the screen and say right away that, hey, the ESX person needs to stop that backup from running for this whole problem to go away. And that's the one that's impacting everything else downstream. People not able to launch applications, people not able to log in and do any of this stuff. It's happening because of that. So with one click, as soon as you logged in, you were able to find out exactly what the problem is with EG. Now, this can also be sent to you as an email or sent to your trouble ticketing system or sent to an incident management system, whichever you might have in place. So that means you are looking at a situation where this gets resolved as soon as it happens. Or more importantly, when the CPU utilization is high, in this case, it's at 100%, as you can see here. Now, typically, this alert goes out when it's at 80% as a medium priority alert. When it goes to 90%, it goes out as a critical priority alert because it's basically choking the entire environment. Now, at that time, if somebody had looked at it and addressed the situation, stopped the backup from running, the whole problem would have gone away. So you would have proactively prevented this problem from happening. If you had done that, we wouldn't have a demo to show you, but you get the idea. And that's where you want to be. You want to proactively be fixing these problems. Now, let's take a quick 1-minute tour into the product to see how this actually came together, right? So this is the home page. We look at a couple of services, bunch of other things is here. It's the overview of the entire service that is being delivered and how it's being delivered, but I want to keep it short. Let's focus on the services. 2 services that are being delivered. That's more important to us. mtxpay.com is green. Infomart is having a medium priority alert. Let's see what's going on there. Application access. So as soon as you get into a service, it gives you the user experience parameters. Application access has 100% errors. User logon has 100% errors. So people couldn't log in or launch any applications. So this is the impact. You can see it right away. So let's drill down, see why that's happening. So you can see the front end. You can see old version of XenApp. We support all the versions from there to the latest. You drill down into XenApp, and you can see that the XenApp is actually part of the ESX host here. So if I go back, I started from user experience. Now I'm able to see how the service is running. You can see the service topology. Essentially, it shows you all the key applications that are working together to deliver the service end-to-end and the health. And you can see that there is a problem with XenApp. You drill into XenApp, and you can see that the XenApp is actually part of ESX, and it automatically correlates to with ESX having a more higher problem. And you click there, and it knows that virtual CPU utilization of console is high. So remember how this problem shows up. People are not able to launch applications. Things are slow, but it turns out to be somebody's running backup on VMware host. Now, this would not be the first thing that you would think of when you encounter this problem. Now, without this correlation, imagine how this would have played out. Just how we saw in the slides earlier. It would have taken hours and hours to troubleshoot. And let's say this problem goes away, that is, the backup stops running by that time. That means you would be in a situation where you would have to say, okay, the problem magically vanished. Let's take a look at it next time when it happens. But with EG, you're able to correlate that right away. You're able to address that right away. And I want to show you one more thing before we wrap this demo up. Now, it's a very simple environment that we saw this in, right? Even in this simple environment, just one of these problems has caused 5 other ripple effects. And these are the killers when a real problem happens in your environment. So what happens is if you have a disjointed set of tools, let's say you have 3 or 4 tools that can collect all the information that EG can collect. Collecting metrics is not rocket science. Let's say you are able to collect all these metrics that EG can collect. You're still looking at a situation where you are looking at 6 different alerts. Now, where do you start troubleshooting this? That's the big challenge. All of them look equally important when you don't have correlation associated to it, when they're coming from different tools. And this is what happens in real time. You get too many alerts from too many different places, and the real problems get buried in between those, so you don't have time to look at them and you miss them. With EG, that's correlated and presented to you. So what we eventually give you is information that you can act upon. That's how we make IT performance management and IT management as a whole simple. We'll do a couple of other shots of how we're bringing in Now I'm going to quickly wrap this up and hand it over to Sumanta for him to talk about NVIDIA. So people spending too much time with very quickly identifying where the problem is. So unified performance management, this is what we talk about. This is why you have to do it this way in today's dynamic infrastructures that have multiple layers, multiple tiers, and everything works together. Reach needs to be great across the infrastructure, across the multiple application tiers that you have. Depth needs to be extensive through each stack. We collect a lot of metrics. We go in depth into a lot of those. You will see how deep we go when we talk about GPU in a minute. And speed to resolution. So it's not enough to just collect metrics. Am I able to convert that data? Am I forcing you to look at 100 graphs, or am I giving you pieces of actionable information that you can act on so you can resolve and get to better user experience quicker? So speed to resolution is key. So with that summary, I'm going to have Sumanta give you guys a quick overview of NVIDIA and how they can make your users' experience better. Sumanta, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Valla. I think it was fantastic to see how the depth and the breadth of the solution is, and how quickly, really, in your example, one could get from nowhere to a problem that you would typically not anticipate, right? And one of the things, Valla, you said that resonates extremely well with NVIDIA is a focus on user experience, right? And that's one of the reasons why this partnership is so important, because we all understand that getting the right level of end user experience is key to success of any NVIDIA deployment. Valla, do I, by the way, have the control of the slides?
Yes, you do, Sumanta. Go ahead and click.
Okay. All right. Okay. Something is wrong. All right, fantastic. So, so exactly, going back to the user experience story, we understand that it's VDI is there are a lot of moving parts that the IT admins have to manage every day, and building the right level of user experience and having a whole bunch of happy users is not an easy task, right? So we'll focus a lot on that during our overall discussion today here, rest of the time. To start with my part of the GPU components, right? So what we are seeing is every enterprise is adopting GPU servers for one reason or the other. Some are doing for high performance computing, for deep learning, data analytics, remote workstation, and then now a lot of enterprises are actually adopting GPUs for application and desktop virtualizations. Now, the application and desktop virtualization has been there for a very long time. And one of the reasons the application and desktop virtualization has some point of a failure is it's not able to deliver the right level of user experience. The reason is very simple. When applications and desktops were first virtualized, GPUs were not part of the mix. This means all of the capture, encode, rendering that was traditionally done on a GPU in a physical device was being handled by CPU in the host. While it was functional for some time, more basic applications worked okay. It never truly met the native experience and performance level that most users needed. 3 years ago, NVIDIA released a grid solution which allowed the IT admins to virtualize a data center GPU and share it across multiple virtual machines. It not only improved performance of the existing application and desktop environment, it also opened up a whole new set of use cases that could leverage this technology. Now, if you look at the overall usage of GPUs, we did a little bit of a work with one of our partners to see how GPUs are getting used in general. The numbers are pretty interesting, and I think it shows in some of the polls that you have already started adopting GPUs. The number of applications that require graphics doubled since 2011. Now, over half of the enterprise users access at least one graphics applications today, and 50% of the based on a Gartner research, 50% of the enterprises are actually thinking of moving to Windows 10 by Jan 2017. Now, why is that important? Because DirectX 12 is the foundation of all Windows 10 devices, whether it's a desktop, laptop, phone, tablets. And DirectX 12 is the graphics API framework from Microsoft and has been extensively pushed across the board. So if you have thinking about moving to Windows 10, you could expect a significant improvement in overall user experience if you have a GPU in the system just by the virtue of how the operating system has been defined. And the same thing can be said for Office 2016 and others too, right? So we actually said, okay, great, this is great data. Now let's plug them into an end user experience of how all of these applications using GPU, how does that actually impact the end user experience? So we did a study in our lab to get a better perspective, right? So we set up two systems, VDI systems, one with a GPU, one without a GPU, exactly the same system. And we asked the end users to use those two systems for their everyday tasks, simple things like opening Outlook, read emails, scroll through long emails, open attachment, play YouTube videos. Then we asked them to score the systems at a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not usable and 5 being as good as a physical computer, right? And the results were extremely interesting. To understand the chart, let's look at some of the, from the right, for example, right? Google Maps, WebGL, you probably are familiar with some of these things. They are GPU users. WebGL is kind of a graphics API for webs. Now, if you move towards the left, you'd see like Outlook attachments, scrolling, YouTube, website, PowerPoint. You normally would think that they would not really necessarily benefit a whole lot from having a GPU in your system. But that's not really true. And then at the very end, we said, outside of all of these normal tasks, just tell us how you overall felt about these two systems. And the results were absolutely clear. People said the one with a GPU had a significant improvement in overall end user experience for their regular tasks as well as GPU focused tasks. Now, why is this important, right? And why does this happen? You might not know all the intricacies of why, for example, a YouTube application would benefit better in a GPU enabled world. Why is scrolling important, right? So for that, just a very high level understanding of how NVIDIA's GPUs work, there are actually three different big components in NVIDIA's GPUs. One, you will probably already have heard about the graphics engine, right? For example, you're running WebGL application, you're running something graphics intensive, it goes into the graphics engine and uses it to accelerate. Now, YouTube, for example, is playing video, right? Now, you would think, how would that get benefited from a GPU? Now, NVIDIA's GPU has something called a decode engine. It's a hardware engine, focused engine for doing an excellent job in decoding certain types of formats, right? And when you're running decode in a VDI environment, it can offload the decode into NVIDIA's GPU, and it not only improves the overall end user experience, it also improves the bandwidth. Same thing, NVIDIA's GPU also has an encode engine. Now, you probably are already familiar with it. You know, when a VDI screen, for example, gets generated in the server, it needs to be encoded first before it sends over the network. You don't want to send a 4K screen over the network as is, right? So you need to encode that frame and then send it over to the network to the others. Now, typically, without a GPU, or for example, without an NVIDIA GPU, you would do all of that work in the CPU. You will do the encode and then you send it over to the network. Now, we did testing with our NVIDIA encode technology, which is enabled with Zen Desktop 7.11 that just came out, which is we are extremely excited about. So when you do enable that, the encoding part of it goes off to the NVIDIA's GPU, and it has a lot of extremely important benefits. It improves the latency, it reduces the bandwidth of your network, and what happens overall end user experience improves because now the CPU is free to do other things, for example, responding to your mouse clicks or you're typing something instead of actually encoding those frames. So we'll go through in a later slide about how those encode and decode utilizations come into picture in our joint work. Moving on to the next one, just a brief idea for 5% of the people or people who are not familiar with NVIDIA's architecture. Our data center GPUs are called Tesla, so we use Tesla data center GPUs for Grid as well. We certify with a number of vendors like Cisco, Dell, HP, Nutanix, Supermicro. They actually take our GPUs and certify into a server. The NVIDIA Grid software runs on top of it. So there are two kinds of software. One runs in your server and one runs inside your guest operating systems. And that enables all of the applications that you see on top of it. If you on the right, you probably would expect 3D Excite, Petrel, Autodesk Maya. You would think these are normal suspects of benefiting from GPU. But like I said earlier in a previous slide, if you go to the left of your slide, you would see Office and Browser and Photoshop, and all of these things also get a significant amount of benefits by having a GPU in the system. Now, if we move on to the next one, up until now, NVIDIA has delivered, like I said in the previous slide, unmatched performance of any workload in the data center. We introduced M10 very recently, and with that, we are significantly increasing the density to up to 64 users, concurrent users per card, which can lead up to over 100 users per server if you put two M10s into a server. And then also with our Grid 2016 release, we added extensive GPU monitoring capability that we will go through in future slides. Finally, before we go into the integration, and this is kind of a perfect slide for us to get into the integration, and part of our demo thesis is that the way we look at the overall infrastructure is extremely similar to how EG and NVIDIA thinks about it, right? You know, we have a design assessment phase, we have a production phase, we have a support phase. And it's extremely important that when you have GPUs in your system, you optimize each one of these phases. In the design phase, you want to get into a state where you can do the right sizing that Valla was talking about earlier as well. When you go to the production stage, you want to build a proactive system where it gives you alerts before problem happens. And when you get to the help desk stage, you want to be able to very quickly find out what's happening in your system, and instead of finger pointing, you can get to a quick issue resolution. And I think one of the demo will cover that, right? So, Valla, with that, I think that kind of wraps up most of what we have from NVIDIA, the brief background of our solution. And next will be an extremely interesting part where we talk about our mutual integration that we have been working for the last few months, and what you could expect out of that.
Yeah, thanks, Sumanta. It's been exciting partnering with NVIDIA and working with you folks. And that was a pretty good introduction into what NVIDIA can bring to the table for a lot of Citrix users and Citrix guys who are listening to this out there. Let's talk about our integration. So as Sumanta mentioned, essentially the goal was to address and help customers in three phases: your design phase, your architecture phase, and then your live phase when you are running it. How do you manage it? And then when you have problems and your help desk is getting calls, how do they take care of it? So so this, Sumanta, you want to comment on what we have up here in the slides?
Absolutely. So this basically, the way we look at and we're talking to customers and partners, etc., there are two levels of kind of insights that one would need to better manage their environments with GPUs, right? So we block it like, monitoring your guests and monitoring your hosts. So at the guest level, what you probably want to know if you have a GPU is all of the encode and the decode and the compute or graphics engine that I mentioned earlier. You want to know how they are getting used by that individual virtual machines. And it was never possible before in a virtual machine world. With our August 2016 release, we added that capability. So now with, for example, a solution like EG will be able to get into individual guest and give you insights as to whether that guest is using any of the engines, and if yes, how much are they using, right? So it's very exciting to understand an individual guest, but we understand that's not enough, right? You want to kind of step back, zoom out at many times and look at all of the guests running on a particular host, right? The noise neighbor scenario, for example, he was giving an example of somebody is running something on the host, but there could be also a scenario where one of your guest virtual machine is running some very interesting 3D application that is hogging up the GPU significantly, impacting the end user experience of all of the other virtual machines. So understanding a zoomed out view is also very important. So we added that capability as well for you to be able to look at the VM side by side at a host and understand how they are getting used. There are some more interesting pieces, understanding how your overall hardware is doing in terms of whether its temperature is going high or its fan is going high, etc. There are lots of other capabilities that we have built into our solution here, right? So we believe that this is a fantastic start for us to get a deeper understanding of how your GPUs are doing in your environment. Now, how do we do that together, right? All of these insights are fantastic. So there are many different ways one would be able to see that information. For example, the way we think about going to market with all of these things are three different ways, right? A standard GPU and VM tools, for example, that all of you are familiar with. For example, you're running Perfmon or GPU-Z, or even if you are familiar with NVIDIA, you might have heard about a tool called NVIDIA SMI, command line tool that we provide along with our software that will give you insights as to what's happening inside a guest. But that's only in a very limited functionality, right? And that's why it's extremely important about this integration with EG Innovation today, is that you need a single pane of glass where you are able to look at not only one VM, but across the VM. So we chose and partnered with EG to bring that value that EG is already helping the customers in the space, right? So we'll talk about that in the demo very soon. And then finally, if one wanted to kind of write their own scripts or wanted to do their own, we also have released a public SDK that would let anybody use our APIs to kind of hook into the NVIDIA GPUs and get a lot of these metrics themselves. But again, I mean, probably you don't want to do that because if you already have a solution like EG, you probably have a very, very good view of your systems anyway. So with that, Valla, you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, I want to comment something here. It was very interesting working with NVIDIA on this, because typically when partners come to us with performance management API, that is because the customers have beaten them up and they get any visibility insight and they don't understand what's going on. And then they want to work with us so we can help them build some of these things out. But NVIDIA was really thinking ahead about the customers. So when they were releasing new functionality, they were thinking about how to provide metrics around it that would help customers use this better, plan with this better. And that's why it was really interesting working with these guys and coming up with these things that will help you guys, the audience who are listening on this. So kudos to NVIDIA for being really proactive on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It has been
now
exciting.
Yeah, let's talk about how this really works with from an integration standpoint. We have monitor KPIs for the GPU when the GPU is used. So let's take a look at the hardware here. It's got NVIDIA GPUs. It's got the CPU. From our perspective, now the GPU is added as another piece of hardware in the host layer. And it's another resource that all the guests that are running on that particular host, including the host, are now consuming and sharing depending on how it is being set up. So we plug it in that particular layer, and people who have been familiar with the under provisioning it, and if you have trouble, why you're having trouble, what applications are causing trouble. And when you put it out in production, when calls come to help desk, they will have enough information so they can resolve those things quickly. So that means accelerated, better user experience when you start using the combined solutions. Now, with all the anticipation and all the hype, let's jump right into the demo. Two scenarios we want to walk you through with. How does it help IT admins, right? So when you're having a problem, how does it help? I think somebody's on speaker. Guys, I'm hearing an echo. All right, thank you. And how does it help help desk? So with that, let me jump back into the demo here. I'm going to sign out of this. I'm going to sign in as a different user. Okay. Just like the previous demo, as soon as we logged in, you can see the problem. It's jumping right in front of you, but I want to walk you through what we have done so you can kind of get a sense of what's going on here. So let's take this Zen Server VDI. There are a couple of systems here. Zen Server VDI, I'm going to drill into that. So we're looking at the layer model of the Zen Server VDI, and you can see that these are grid GPUs and grid GPU metrics. You can see that this particular GPU is shared. Number of virtual machines currently using it is 1. Remaining capacity can accommodate up to 7. But already compute utilization is 98. Memory utilization is 30. Graphics utilization. Frame buffer memory, power one memory, temperature, power, everything that you need to know from the outside perspective, from the hypervisor layer, what is going on for this particular GPU. Now, this is a shared GPU.
Yeah, Bala, I just want to very quickly jump in and just mention that, when in situations like that, when, for example, you have, let's say, 16 virtual machines running on a system, and one of the virtual machine is hogging up the CPU or the GPU, or, for example, your decode or one of the engines that we mentioned, we're showing here in the utilization counters, you would see impact in the end user experience, right? So it's important that this is, again, it could be resulting into a noisy neighbors scenario where the call starts coming in saying, my VDI is slow or my application isn't responding, which has nothing to do with maybe that particular user, might be something completely different in a different user's environment. Go ahead, Bob.
Right. So you have deployed GPU now, but there is a situation where one of the VMs is actually impacting the entire card by hogging it. So you can see from the drill down here that we are able to identify the VM name. So XDD77, it's taking up 98% of the GPU. So in this scenario, it is already pointing out an alert. So EG is automatically telling you already that there is a problem there. There is somebody hogging the GPU, and you can actually drill down and see exactly which desktop it is. Now, that's great information from an admin standpoint. Now I know that this is supposed to be used by multiple VMs, in some cases maybe a dozen VMs, and now I'm having a problem with one of the VMs hogging everything. Now the next step is, there are multiple layers in here, but the next step really is the inside view, up the top layer, to say what's happening within that particular VM. Why is it consuming that much GPU? So we drill down. So we saw the 4 VMs running on that system. 77, XDD77 was the culprit, and we are able to drill down. So with EG, you are getting both the overview on the outside and also detailed metrics on the inside in the same place. And you can see here GPU compute utilization is 100%. So it's using all the GPU that is allocated to it. And let me drill down here and see why. It's because of a process called format.exe. Now, as an administrator, I know exactly what is causing this GPU contention. I'm able to drill down quickly and figure out exactly why this is happening. And this could be multiple scenarios. Maybe this is an application that requires its own GPU. Or if a user is going to be running this, then they need to be allocated separate GPU so they can get the best experience. Or there is something that has gone wrong with this particular scenario. It's not supposed to be doing it. It is doing it. It needs to be killed so other users can start using GPU and user experience can return to normal in this environment. In any case, it is providing the administrator with the information that they need to take corrective action.
Exactly, and then also, I mean, the same thing, same concept is going to apply for the other components like an encode and decode there as well. If somebody is running videos all day long and that they're not supposed to be, you as an admin would be able to figure that out fairly quickly, looking at a VM, or if you want to set up different thresholds and alerts and all that. You will be able to do all of that thing. So this is for if you have a GPU and a system like everything else around it, you want to have this level of insights. And the way actually EG presents it is so user friendly and so easy to understand. It's really it's one of the reasons that catches your attention very quickly is you don't have to think too much. You just you're pointed to the direction. So that's fantastic work by EG.
Yep. So let me do a quick time check. We just realized time flies when you're having fun. It's 11:57. We don't want to keep you guys too much on here. I want to show you a quick couple of other things. What you're seeing is what you can consider as a teaser trailer to what we can do. And this is a situation where this VM is being provided its own GPU. It's not a shared GPU, so you can see all the metrics from within here. And so all the metrics that you're seeing here can be reported upon. So you can do baseline statistics, like you can run reports to say, give me the top 10 GPU consuming VMs. Give me the top 10 GPU consuming applications. Give me the top 10 whatever else consuming decoder utilizing applications or VMs. So you can get an idea of how your environment is going to be like, and then plan accordingly and allocate resources accordingly, and keep constantly improving your situation. Now, let's flip the script, and let's say the help desk gets a call, right? Help desk gets a call, and they want to look at a user called GP test is calling and saying that they have problems. It's going to be the same data, but you can see it from a different perspective. Help desk can actually type in that username up top. And like Samantha said, our goal was to try and make it as easy as possible. So you don't have to be an expert in a lot of things to just type in the username, click on the link that shows up here. The user is found in this particular server. Click on that particular link, and you will see what we call as user experience dashboard. You are being shown when the user last logged in, alerts that are currently open for this particular user, and we wanted to give you a GPU focus in information. So GPU utilization, GPU frame buffer, power run memory, and you can actually see FurMark application using 100% GPU. So right there, if the user calls up and saying, I'm having problem sluggishness, you can see that this is not CPU. CPU is fine here. It's not memory. It's GPU, and that GPU problem is happening because of the FurMark application that the user is running. So your help desk is able to help the user right away.
I actually love that, Valla, because it puts so many things side by side. You have CPU, you have network latencies, and then now you have GPU. So it's a fantastic screen for somebody to look at and at a quick glance to find out what might be going on, right? So this is great.
Yep, that's exactly the idea. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible to give a higher efficiency to the help desk people so they can quickly do that job themselves instead of escalating every time when there is a complaint. I think we are running up to the top of the hour. So there are a couple of slides in there, but we're probably going to say that thank you for taking the time. We will jump into QA. Hopefully, you guys have seen the ROI we can bring to the table. NVIDIA can greatly impact your user experience with the different types of applications you would have. Hey, I'm hearing that echo again. Okay, so and NVIDIA can improve your user experience, and so can EG. Combined, the solution is going to, I feel, when you have needs for graphic-based applications, when you have, and even non-graphics-based applications like Sumanta was talking about, when you have situations where you're looking at GPU, like I think most of the audiences today, we have a combination of solutions for you guys that is going to get you to better user experience very quickly. With that,
exactly, and Valla, I think the three, if I had to kind of overall summarize for everybody on this call of where this partnership is going to really bring a lot of value for everybody is, our joint work, venture together, will help the architects build a good right-sized environment for all the admins to be able to create a more proactive system than a reactive system, and also for the help desks to be able to, increase their efficiency in issue resolution and get to a better end user experience. I mean, I would probably summarize these three broad categories that our listeners to this call could expect coming in very soon, right?
Yep, and those three will feed into your better user experience. You can keep your users happy, and fundamentally, that's what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Again, let's throw it to Q&A. Shashi?
Yeah, thanks, Bala, and thanks. It was a wonderful presentation, I would say. Like, by the time when you mentioned it was 1 hour, I was just looking at my screen and I said, oh, wow, it is already 1 hour and we have got so much of information from both of you. Thanks, Sumanta. Thanks. Great. So jumping on to the Q&A sessions. We have a lot of questions being asked there, and keeping in the time and interest, let's see if we could answer as much questions as we can. And the questions that if you are left out with, we will be answering those questions via email, and then we will be sending those information to all of the listeners who are joining this call. Great. To start with, there's a question which says, can you track bandwidth usage for video sessions so I can see which user is using the highest bandwidth?
Yes, that's a good question. So we are not only doing GPU, CPU, we are doing network bandwidth, we are doing disk activity, we are doing pretty much any resource that is needed. I'm getting that echo back again.
Oh, probably it is me, so let me just be on mute for a while.
Okay. All right. So we track a lot of other things in addition to GPU, and that enables us extensively to go deep into the resources being consumed and how the sharing of those resources is impacting the user experience. So in short, the answer to the question was yes, but I just wanted to give some perspective to that.
Okay, thanks. So the next one is on the same lines. How does this solution scale? Can you talk about deployment time and complexity?
That's an excellent question. One of the biggest advantages we have is our ability to work out of the box. What we have focused on is like the ease of use when you're using it. We wanted it to be easy to run. Even though it's an enterprise class performance management solution, we didn't want our customers to spend weeks running this. I think the time to value from the solution is going to be less than a day, even if you have large environments. It has all the thresholds and stuff built in. In fact, we are working with Sumanta and team to put together all the right thresholds for this new GPU metrics that we are working with, so that when the user sees it, it's already baked into the product. It already is sending the right alerts. It's already giving them the right recommendations. So they don't spend too much time configuring and setting up the software. They are focused on using the software and getting better user experience.
Okay, Right, right. Okay, so the next one is when would grid software with monitoring capabilities be available, and would this monitoring support include the current grid licenses as well?
Of course, I think I can take that. We launched our August 2016 release last month, around I think 26th of last month, and that enables this latest monitoring capability. And if you are already a grid customer, licensed customer, you don't need to buy any extra license. It is included into your existing license. You need to upgrade to a latest software. And if you are, for example, using virtual apps or virtual PC or virtual workstation, one of the licenses, you don't have to buy anything extra to get benefits like this. And that's kind of where a lot of NVIDIA's innovation is going to tie in. If you are already part of the licensed software or future innovation, when we add more capabilities into our NVIDIA software, and we work with partners like EG to bring that to you, you will automatically get the benefits out of it.
Okay, thanks, man. The next one would be, would monitoring features work on K1 and K2 cards?
Right. So I mean, if you already are familiar with NVIDIA's products, there were Grid K1 and K2 that we launched a while ago, and from last year onwards, we have migrated to our more newer technology called Maxwell-based cards. So we have three products: M6, M60, and we just launched M10. These three products are now available, and they are licensed part of the product. And the monitoring capabilities will work only on Maxwell and beyond. All of these new capabilities we are adding at the NVIDIA software will be kind of limited to Maxwell and beyond.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned earlier, there are many more questions, but due to lack of time, we'll just take up these questions via email. Uh, anything last words that you want to mention, Bala or Sumanta, before I conclude this?
I just want to say thanks everybody for joining live or listening to the recording, and thanks to Citrix for giving us the opportunity, and thanks NVIDIA for joining us. This has been a great partnership both with Citrix and also recently with NVIDIA, and I think we believe we are able to bring more value to the customers with these partnerships.
And then absolutely likewise, from our perspective, Citrix and EG are extremely key strategic partners, and these are extremely important for us to go to market with, because you care so much about end user experience, which is in our heart as well. And it's not about just the capability, but also the people we work with, and the ease of working together. The partnership builds great values together, and it's just the beginning. In our mind, we're just starting the journey here, and these partnerships are going to bring a lot more value as we go along and bring newer functionalities to the end users and our admins.
Absolutely, I echo the same wordings as from EG Innovations and from NVIDIA. Citrix always loves to work with the strategic partners like you, and even for our customers, it becomes very easy for them to choose a solution with all these combinations, right? So great. So I would like once again to thank you, Bala, and uh, Rudit, saying that this was a wonderful presentation. And with that, I would say uh, thank you all for joining this webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and then it will be posted live on YouTube as well, and we'll send out the communication. So this concludes our webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.